Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Valeria and this is the off-road range. You may be wondering what this is and what's going on here. I'll answer. It is a broken roof from an old well and a construction ladder lowered into the well. Many times I have said in my videos that I have no clean water and I drive to draw water from a spring in a neighboring village. And today is the day when I will clean my well. Just briefly about me. I have 10,000 square meters of land I'm building the off-road ranch on. As of today, I have a Jeep, 2,500 square meters of land cleared from the overrun garden of 1,000 trees, a box of a house with no flooring and furniture, a trailer, and a thick container. These are my achievements in almost 2 years with a loan and borrowed money. But you can learn more about it in previous videos. And under the new year, I will record a video about the off-road range in 2 years of work. In this video, I will clean the well to get at least technical water. This day started at 5:30 a.m. and ended at 3 a.m. There was a lot of prep work and I wasn't able to film them. I started filming by securing a ladder to get down into the well safely. An old weld cap holds the ladder so it won't fall. And next, the ladder is secured to the tree with chain and carabiners. The used ladder cost $70 and the carabiners total about $20, but they are low quality and not to be relied on heavily. What are my tasks for today? Determine the depth of the well and the amount of silt in it. This will give an understanding of what steps are needed next. Empty the well with a sump pump. Clean the silt out of the well. Backfill the bottom with bricks. Concrete the well. And to tell you about the steps and risks. I require safety ropes to descend into the well. I use car ropes to save money as there is no money for required ropes right now. I use fixed ropes. Each one cost $13. I attach the ropes to the tree with a carabiner. You can also look into self-tightening knots. The other end of the rope I will attach to the pump to lower it into the well or to my climbing harness. I bought my own professional carabiners and flashlight about 3 years ago. They cost me about $150 at that time. I will have 2 people helping me clean the well. Usually they work at a foursome, but 2 of them got sick. So they agreed to come and help at half the cost, since they cannot work full-time elsewhere. We started at 5:30 a.m. with dawn and worked over 20 hours. The total of the men's work cost me $540. Prior to that time, I had been buying all the required equipment for months and had measured the dangerous gases in the well for weeks to remedy them before I went down. This is a good Czech mountaineering insurance, the smallest size. It cost $370. I'm sure it will come in handy for me many times in the future, including for hobbies. The harness is chosen according to the parameters and height and then tighten it to fit snugly. And here are my first steps. I descend into the well. The crowbar across the well also acts as insurance. It cost $55. The rope has to be behind the crowbar in order to have free range and not to break through the concrete ring of the well. I cannot say I don't feel fear at all. I feel tension and responsibility. I determine the depth of the well and the amount of silt with a long wooden stick. I reach down and lower the stick strictly vertically down into the center to find how deep the bottom is. The well inside is wet, cold, and stinky. Now you can determine the depth of the well and the thickness of the silt based on how wet the stick is. If you compare a wet stick to my height, you'll realize there is over 2 meters of silt in the well. It all needs to be cleaned out. And that is why a helmet is so important. You see, something dirty and almost black fell on my head as I was coming down. Do not neglect safety. The helmet cost me $5. Now I am on to the next step. I need to pump the water out of the well all the way to the bottom. To do this, I bought a drainage pump with increased capacity, which pumps out mud and sludge. I also bought special hose with a length of 100 meters. The hose and the pump cost around $350. I want to lead the hose to the border of the plot in the lowland and drain the water from the well there. Don't worry, there is no toxic waste in this water. It is just groundwater with silt and algae that has accumulated in the well. This hose weighs 35 kilograms, so I have a hard time even just rolling it on the ground. I would like to point out that the hose must be untwisted without kinks. Otherwise, the water will not go any further. My viewer may ask me again why I spend the money to buy rather than rent. First, after cleaning the well, I will need to pump it out at least 5 times more after one ring is full of water. And renting a hose for a week is already comparable to the purchase price. Second, I need to clean the second well later, which is unsuitable for drinking water. And I also need to dig a septic tank and use a sump pump to pump out groundwater, if there is any. The pump is in a $5 metal bucket to keep it from hitting the walls of the well, and it is secured with a rope and carabiners for insurers to safely lift it out of the well. For some reason, I was sold a hose with a larger diameter than advertised, but I attach it to the pump with a clamp. It is time to lower the pump. The pump safety rope and hose are also thrown over the crowbar to avoid breaking against the concrete rings. And it is time to pump out the water. A mandatory rule, which is written in caps lock, is you cannot be in the well at the same time as the pump, because there is such a thing as an electric current. The metal casing of the pump, the well water, the human body, they are all great conductors. You want to live, don't you? So, the water has been pumped out. The pump has been lifted up to the top of the well, and you can practically see the bottom of the well below. The soil is sand, rocks, and sometimes limestone. It is time to go down to dig out the silt.
Flash on.
I'll turn the sound off so it won't be so noisy. Water seeps through the concrete walls of the well under the pressure of the soil, which drains and accumulates at the bottom. That is how a well works. Welcome to the 21st century. Algae and roots of trees grow in the well stick out of the walls between the joints of the rings. This is what the bottom of the well looks like. Now I can already stand on the bottom, so I risked taking my phone with me to partially film the process. My goal is to dig the well further from the silt and, most importantly, to find the end of the well. I may be disappointing the viewer now, but by this point it was already evening and I had been digging out the silt for over 10 hours. But I was hanging from a safety rope with no support under my feet, trying to twist myself around so that I could reach the water and not get my feet, hips and back well. It was impossible to capture anything on camera in that position. And the people I was working with were continuously lifting buckets of silt, which I filled and gave to them. Friends, it takes multiple cameramen to make quality content like this. Even now, without cameramen, the cost of my shooting day is approaching $700 if we count time expenses. I don't have the money to pay for multiple cameramen every day and their logistics here, as they just don't have a normal place to live at my range. If you want to support me, then subscribe to my channel, give likes and share my channel with your friends. I would also appreciate your support on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, but cryptocurrency is the best option to save your money on huge middleman fees. I put all donations into a finance spreadsheet and show it to you every few months. So I am filming one of the last stages of work for you. However, it was the most challenging, especially the last 2 hours. I need to find the edge of the last ring, so I'm still scooping up the water that keeps coming in and digging for silt. Once I find the bottom of the last ring, I stop digging, even if there is still silt at the bottom. If I dig out the silt below the last ring, a gap will form between the ring and the bottom. This gap, according to the laws of physics, should naturally fill with earth under the pressure of the soil. How can the earth appear there? The earth around the well will sink lower and fill the space. And that means that the rings can sag, shift, and worst of all, collapse under the pressure of the soil around the rings. The collapsing of the well rings is one of the risks for those who clean the well, as the person is left buried under chunks of concrete. Another risk of this profession is asphyxiation from poisonous gases that accumulate at the bottom of the well and that rise up when cleaning, such as methane. That is why you hear the noise. It is the sound of a fan constantly pushing fresh air into the well. Write in the comments, how do you feel about such an unusual job? Would you risk cleaning a well yourself? The camera is much slower and more difficult to work with. Just imagine, you are at a depth of 6 meters in a well with a diameter of 1 meter, where besides you there is a ladder and a bucket, which also take up space. And you still have to turn and use the tool, take the bucket and give the bucket with silt and water and not get a bucket on your head. The shovel periodically hits the rock and the sound makes your ears ring. So I shoot only a piece of video as carefully as possible so as not to splash my phone or hit it with a shovel or bucket. On top of that, the place stinks horribly. Maybe you know how the muddy standing water in the reservoir smells. Multiply the smell 1,000 times over. The only advantage is that it is plus 7 degrees Celsius inside and it is plus 40 outside, even though it is night. But even this not a great advantage, because I'm standing on the bottom in rubber boots, and in 20 minutes my feet will start to freeze, and in an hour will go crabs. That's how I shoveled all day. And the first 8 hours were worse, because I was hanging half-turned on the safety rope, and the safety rope was cutting my ribs, hips and legs. After the work, while sleeping, I dreamt I was digging a well hanging on the safety rope, and in the morning I had bruises on my ribs and hips that took a week to go away. Next, I used a trowel to cut away algae and tree roots. The final cleanup needs more work, but it is more important to finish cleaning the bottom now, and next time clean the walls and concretize. We don't have time to do that this time. Look how clean the sand has become, and the incoming water is no longer cloudy. I'm giving the last bit of algae upstairs and getting on with the final work. And so came the final part of today's day. But this part turned out to be the hardest for me. It was already deep night. People upstairs were tired from the heat and constant lifting of sand buckets. And it was getting cold in the well, and I was all wet with water. My job is to lay the bricks under the last ring of the well, and then lay the bricks on the bottom. I need to dig a small hole under the ring and tamp the bricks in there, and do this all around the circle. This is necessary so that the bottom doesn't resilt, so that the water remains clean. But the soil I dig is very hot, and often there are stones. The bricks don't fit in this hole, and the corners of the bricks stick out and fall out under the pressure of the soil and sand. I need to dig beyond the wall of the well, but not go deeper. But the problem is that water and sand are coming into the well faster than I can dig and lay bricks. After digging out the field, the bottom of the well turned out to be floating sand. This is the type of sand that sucks a person in. I had to work very fast and constantly pull my feet out of the water as I was constantly being sucked in. It is quite difficult to do this in a small space, especially since there is no support for the bricks. But while I'm working, let's summarize the financials. To date, I've spent $1,643 to clean out the well. And that's taking into account the huge discount on the work, since I had 2 people come to me instead of 4, and I cleaned the well myself. Other than that, the well is not completely cleaned. It is necessary to pump it out with a drainage pump 5-7 times, because at first there will still be silt residues instead of clean water. Also, the well should be cleaned from algae and roots, chlorinated, and all cracks should be concreted. But these rather large expenses are just cleaning the well to cover the basic need of any living being. So if someone looks at my income and thinks that I have a good profit, they should also look at the huge expenses to meet the minimum needs. It is not cafes, restaurants, cinema, and vacations to the sea, but survival. And most importantly, I don't know if that well will work, if water will flow there. Perhaps it will also be unsuitable like the first well near my house. I will be able to find out that a week later or more. I finished laying the bricks and didn't take any more video since it was around 3 a.m. We very quickly removed the pump, twisted the hose, gathered the tools, the fan and the lamp that lit us up. Then I paid people for the labor and walked them to their cars, as after a hot day, everyone wants to get home, shower, eat and sleep as soon as possible. In the next videos, I will show you the process of repumping the well. This is necessary to get the well working. I will show you the cleaning of my new water barrels, the concreting of the well, and the cleaning of another well. Other than that, I am preparing another small project as part of the construction of the off-road range, but more on that later. Put your bell on so you don't miss future episodes, and I look forward to see you in future videos. It was Valeria, the off-road range. I wish you all the best and see you soon.